Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack your sources to find those aha moments you didn't know were there. Today, well, we're diving into something familiar. New Year's, that fresh start feeling.
Right, the calendar flips over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if? What if the way you think about time, about tradition, is actually based on a fundamental misunderstanding?
It's a really interesting question, isn't it? It goes way beyond just dates. So yeah, our mission for this deep dive is to take you on a bit of a journey. We're looking at ancient calendars, some serious astronomical maths, big historical shifts.
All to uncover the real complexity behind Khmer timekeeping and celebrations.
Precisely. And the precision that often gets missed. We've got some great stuff here, and honestly some insights that might really surprise you, make you look at calendars differently.
Okay, let's jump in, starting right at the beginning. These ancient traditions, India, Cambodia, how did they even mark a new month? It wasn't like our calendar, was it?
Not at all, no. The earliest documented way was actually using the waning moon.
The waning moon, so when it's getting smaller?
Exactly, not the new moon, not the full moon. Which is key because history shows things change. Like the Chinese monk Xuanzang visiting India around, 1200 Buddhist era?
Yeah.
He noted India had already switched. They started the month right at the beginning, moving away from that waning moon idea.
Okay, so India shifts. What about Cambodia? Do they just follow along?
Well, not exactly. Fast forward maybe 650 years, so roughly 1306 CE, in Korean times, there was a Chinese envoy, Zhu Daguan.
Ah, his records.
Right. And his records suggest Cambodia was, kind of still holding on to that waning moon tradition, mostly. But you could see the influence from India. That pressure to change to a beginning of the month system was definitely there.
Interesting. A bit of both worlds.
Yeah.
And this original way, the waning moon thing,
Right?
that connects to the original Khmer New Year, right? Which wasn't always in April.
Absolutely not. The first Khmer New Year was purely lunar. They called it Shanarakte. And here's a real aha moment for you.
Okay.
The Ak Ambok Festival. You know the one where they worship the moon today?
Yeah, I know.
That was originally the Khmer Lunar New Year.
No way. Seriously?
Seriously. It just shows how understanding can drift over time, right? Its original purpose got kind of reinterpreted.
Yeah.
Back then, the New Year fell between the months of Kendek Reach and Migasir.
Wow, that's incredible. A major festival today was the Old New Year. And you mentioned a Chinese connection, too. Not Migasir.
Yeah, some people mix that up, but the Chinese New Year, their 10th month, actually lines up directly with the Cambodian month of Meek. It's a subtle link, but it hints that maybe these different New Year traditions share some deeper astronomical roots that we've kind of forgotten.
Fascinating. Okay, so the moon was the original anchor. What made them shift focus? Why move towards the sun for the new year? This is the Suryakate, the solar new year.
Right, and it wasn't arbitrary. It seems tied to celebrating Adityanaka. That phrase means the sun's journey. So it clearly points to a dedication, maybe even worship, focused on the sun.
A conscious shift. So if it wasn't a king just picking a date, what is the astronomical trigger? What marks the solar new year?
That's the Ayantasakrantak. It's the precise moment the sun hits its absolute zenith, like directly overhead.
That sounds incredibly precise to track.
It really was. And that's why, while we usually see Khmer New Year around April 15th now, it can shift. Like the sources show, in 2043, it'll actually be April 17th. That means a 4-day celebration, not 3.
Ah, okay. So it really is a celestial event, not just a fixed date. That completely debunks the idea of a king just decreeing it.
Exactly. That's likely a simpler story that replaced the complex ongoing calculations as fewer people understood them over time.
That complexity really runs deep in the Khmer calendars, doesn't it? Which kind of brings us to decoding them.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just one system.
Definitely not. You have multiple eras going on. The Buddhist era put the Sakuraj, based on the Buddha's parinibbana, obviously.
Right.
Then much, much later, you get the Christian era, Sakarat Reach. That became official in Cambodia around 1948.
And bringing that in.
Oh.
It kind of pushed out the older ways.
Unfortunately, yeah, that seems to be the case. Its adoption gradually led to some of these really specific older Cambodian systems being, discarded or forgotten.
And those older ones sound fascinating, like Mahasakaraj, Chul Sakaraj, Boran Sakaraj. You mentioned Mahasakaraj had these Rakati cycles. What were they?
Yeah, the Rakati cycles within Mahasakaraj are really cool. Think of them like special year identifiers within the bigger system. Ek Rakati for year 1, Thor Rakati for year 2, Stray Rakati for 3, then Pancha for 5, Chur for 6.
So specific names for years 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 in a cycle.
Exactly. Not just random, but part of how they tracked things, how they recorded dates on inscriptions way back before other influences took over.
Got it. Okay, let's zoom in on the lunar calendar, the Chanarak day. Again, besides starting with the waning moon, what else made it distinct?
Well, a big one is it doesn't use those animal year names we often associate with Asian calendars. You know, Jute, Shlav, Kal, Tom, Rat, Ox, Tiger.
Right, none of those.
Nope. And it didn't even have an official era number attached until the Buddha's Parinibbana became the reference point. Plus, the length of the year, it wasn't fixed at all.
How variable are we talking? A day here or there?
Oh, much more. A standard lunar year was 354 days. But it could be 355 days. They'd add an extra day to the month of Chaitra for that.
Okay.
Or, and this is wild, it could be 384 days long.
384.
By adding 2 extra months of Ashada.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lunar years were really dynamic, constantly being adjusted to stay aligned.
That's a massive difference. So compared to that, how did the solar calendar, the Syriac-Hittite, operate?
That one's all based on the sun's position, its apparent movement. It has its own unique Khmer month names. And importantly, the number of days in those months often didn't match up with European months.
Oh, like how?
Well, for example, their month, Mithun, roughly June, could have 32 days. Or Nu, their December equivalent, might only have 29.
So not just 30 or 31.
Exactly. It wasn't arbitrary. It was tied to these precise solar calculations. But yeah, records show people sometimes mistakenly applied European day counts to the Khmer months, which just adds to the confusion.
This level of detail, it leads us to something you call the lost art of Ethapooch. Sounds like a really sophisticated system.
It truly was. Athapooch was like their ancient calendrical supercomputer. Seriously. It was designed to calculate everything, sun's movement, moon's movement, figuring out leap years. It had these 8 core principles.
8 principles, like functions.
Kinda, yeah, like internal algorithms. Rakarej figured out the year number across different eras. Ahurin was like a running count of every single day passed since a starting point.
Wow.
Karampal, or Kapilpal, tracked the sun's daily movement. Puchpal did the same for the moon. And Avapal was crucial. It determined when to add that extra day to Chaitra or the whole extra month, like Ashada.
And there were others.
Porkin calculated total lunar months from a Buddhist era point. Bodhi found the lunar date matching a solar date. And Piarak was the final principle. It allowed for incredibly precise calculations of past and future dates. Shows just how advanced they were.
It really does. Mind-boggling, really. Without modern tech. And knowing this precision makes the later misconceptions even clearer. What's a big one that crops up?
A really significant one is the term Penborami. Today, most people just take it to mean full moon, visually round and bright.
Yeah, sounds right.
But its older, deeper meaning was actually complete, or the end of the month, especially within that lunar framework.
Ah, so not just full, but finished.
Exactly. It's a subtle linguistic shift, but it totally changes how you interpret older texts or understand traditional timings.
That is a huge aha moment. What about other practices, like the rains retreat for monks Vassa and giving the Kathina robes? Any confusion there?
Oh, absolutely. So monks traditionally had 2 periods they could enter the retreat. Paramikavas early, or Pachimikavas later. The Kathina robe offering, the Javarakal, is super important and depends on completing the retreat properly.
Okay.
But here's a key difference the research points out. Traditionally, to be eligible for Kathina robes in the month of Fathrabat, monks actually had to enter the retreat a month before Vassa officially began. Like they'd enter in Ashada month.
Not during the Vassa period itself.
Right. If they enter during Vassa, say in the month of Shraban, the tradition says they weren't eligible for the Kathina offering that year.
So the timing of entry was crucial for eligibility. That's different from common practice now.
It seems so. And another detail, the traditional end of the Vassa retreat, according to the old ways, was the 15th waning day of Fathrabat month.
Not the 14th waning day.
No, the 15th waning. It's often observed on the 14th now. It seems like a small thing, but it's another shift. There's even an old song, "Oh, struck Shrey round candle month riche," that apparently references this older timing.
A song. That shows how ingrained these details were in the culture once. Incredible. And you also found something about Buddha's biographical dates, how they make more sense with the old system.
Yeah, this is another great example. We usually hear Buddha renounced at age 29, enlightenment at 35.
Right.
But if you just count the years straightforwardly from his birth year using our modern calendar thinking, it often looks like he'd be 30 and 36 respectively. Seems like a mismatch.
Okay, yeah, I see the potential confusion.
If you apply the traditional calculation method where the waning moon marks the start of the month, those apparent discrepancies vanish. It lines up perfectly with 29 and 35.
Wow.
It shows the original texts were likely incredibly precise according to their system. It's our later interpretation, using a different calendar logic, that created the problem.
So putting it all together, it really feels like there's been a significant loss of this original precise knowledge over the centuries.
I think that's fair to say. The introduction of foreign systems, like the French bringing in the Christian era, while maybe practical at the time, had this unintended consequence. It gradually eroded the understanding and use of these complex indigenous Khmer calendrical systems.
Leading to confusion.
Exactly. Confusion, misinterpretations. It means that some current cultural and religious practices might actually be based on these long-standing shifts in understanding, creating discrepancies that weren't there originally.
It's just staggering.
Right.
The richness and complexity of Khmer calendrical science is really something else. We've touched on the distinct lunar and solar calendars, that amazing Athapuch system.
And how deeply precise they were. It really highlights how current practices often trace back to these historical changes and, yes, sometimes simple misunderstandings that just built up over time.
Understanding these shifts, it doesn't just clarify traditions for you listening. It really showcases the incredible ingenuity of these ancient cultures.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the depth of knowledge they had, knowledge that's sometimes just hidden beneath the surface of what we think we know.
So maybe the final thought to leave you with after this deep dive is this. If something as fundamental as how we track time and celebrate New Year could undergo such profound changes and reinterpretations, what other deep, precise knowledge might be hiding in plain sight? In history, in science, in art, maybe even in your own field of interest? What's waiting for us to look again a little closer and rediscover? Maybe it's time to do some digging.